I checked in to see if you were there and you weren't. And I was thinking maybe it was because of the holiday. Wasn't it like a fast?
Yeah.
I figured that. Yeah. Awesome. So good. That looked like an amazing trip.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Really, really awesome.
You look like you were in your element. I'm telling you. So happy and joyous there. It made me the same.
Yeah.
So I want to go too. Let's go soon. Bring the angels to fly us there, will you?
This is a picture I took.
Oh, the one behind you? Wow.
Yeah, this is Masada, up at Masada overlooking the Dead Sea.
How cool. Oh, wow. That's pretty rad. That's beautiful. Wow. I need to be there. We all do, I think. It was so drawn to it.
Yeah, I mean, this was their last holdout before they got completely conquered. And it's just crazy that even for a few hundred Yidden living up on Masada, not bothering anyone, for the Roman Empire, they would spend money, time, resources building this massive ramp just to squash the last few Jews living free.
Oy vey. There's so much hate for us. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable.
It's like if we give you away all the land, then will you leave us alone? No. Even if you're just all camped out on the top of Masada, not bothering anyone else, we're still gonna come and try to get you.
Been like this since the beginning.
Yeah.
So here we are. Here we are. But we're ready for a new beginning. This is going to be leading to a new beginning. And seems like everything is escalating, escalating, escalating. How far can we escalate before Mashiach comes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's time to come already.
Hmm. You, me, and Yossi are on the same page.
it's
Absolutely.
already overdue.
I'm telling you, there's too much negativity out there. I can't look at the news. Somebody got stabbed, a bunch of people got shot. This is every single day. I don't even look. I can't
Right.
look. Trying to live in shalom here.
Yeah.
You bring Mashiach by studying Torah and finding shalom.
Let me see if Nick wants to join us.
Absolutely.
I didn't really push it too far. Didn't get much of a chance to advertise, but let's see here.
Kidding. This is my second time here, or third time. I came twice when you weren't here. Look at
Mhm.
Hungry Torah study.
Um,
How was the food over there?
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, it
I don't
was
cook it. I can't eat it here because there's no place kosher.
right. Um, that was just amazing to see people truly living, like present and alive. Not like you hear in the media that everybody's afraid or that there's this crazy war or whatever. People are just living their life. They're care deeply about one another
And so
and are just present.
the love is for here, from here for them, and from all over the world. Everybody loves Israel. I keep meeting more and more people here who love Israel, and I'm being called rabbi here, by the way, now.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. That's not so bad.
Right. It says David HaMelech called Achitophel Rav because he taught him two things. So even if you teach somebody even if you teach them one letter of the alphabet, they could already call you rabbi.
Absolutely. I had a young man come and sit down with me. I was sitting on a bench on Shabbat and brought up Old Testament, had some questions about Joseph, and I'm like all into Joseph right now. I've been like reading him on my own, And he's like, okay, tell me about this and that, and I'm all into it. He's like, get out of here. And I'm like, yeah. He's
Mhm.
all, and then now I've been seeing him. He's been popping around.
Nice.
Cool. Wherever you can put out the good vibe.
Let's see here. We have a doubleheader this week. Mates and Masse. And the Masse is like a big review. The Nick's coming on. Let me just wait a
Oh,
second.
cool.
Let's see where I got the waiting room enabled.
Cool. I was just thinking in my back of my mind, and Abba, please take care of us and don't let anybody get in and throw porn in front of us in garbage.
Right. No, now I have
Back of my mind. Oh
it's a
man,
it's a new link and I have the waiting room on just in case.
that's so cool. Perfect.
Yeah, we gotta up our security.
That's exactly it, man. I don't understand that. I know that Abba saw that, and I can't imagine what he thought. He was probably like shaking his head, going, "Oh man, Oy, exactly."
Yeah, now I don't share the link publicly. I share it just to my friends on Facebook and then keep the waiting room on. So we'll see.
Perfect. I invited a lady from here to come on with us too, a Jewish lady who was interested, but
Oh,
I
nice.
didn't know if she could stay up till 10 o'clock at night. I said, "We'll see."
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, so Israel is really special. Have you ever been there?
No, no. Oh my God. I mean, I've been the most that I've been there has been like with you guys. I've been at the Wailing Wall with all the Chabad rabbis, during all this since the beginning of the attacks and all that. Early, I only became interested in Israel with the awakening of my spiritual and connection with Adonai.
Hmm.
Called me, believe me. He said Shema Yisrael to me, and now all of a sudden I'm all in the middle of Torah and prayer and putting on tefillin, and that happened just like overnight. It literally did. It was
How long
quick.
ago?
Let's see, it was 2014.
Well,
I was out since 1974 after my bar mitzvah. I was done. I put
well.
everything down. Yeah.
Yep. It's never too late to turn around.
The call comes. I'll tell you, it comes and it's strong, and it's important. It's the
Yep.
most important thing in your life when you hear that call. Comes
Yep.
strong in my family because they are Cohens, on the my mother's
Uh-huh.
side.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
David, how you doing?
David, fine?
Hello, kid. Hello, young man.
Yeah.
And you too, young man. How are
Hello.
you?
Good.
Good to see you.
Who do you call kid, me or David?
Both of them. You and your son. Couple of kids.
Yeah,
Mishpucha, is that better?
Mishpucha, yeah.
There you go.
So,
Sorry,
Familia.
I'm late because I don't have I didn't have Zoom on this computer.
oh, okay. We call it.
Nice background. It's Yam HaMelech.
Right. This was the picture I took.
Yeah, yeah. I also have a picture like this, maybe even the same exact.
Right.
Yes, it's a cool place.
Awesome.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Wow, I like your background for back in Eretz Israel.
Right. Yeah, we're
Mm.
talking about the travels. So this is a picture I captured when I was up on Masada looking out over to the Dead Sea.
Beautiful.
And it was quite a journey, quite a travel around the Eretz Yisrael. And this week's parsha is the last two parshas, Mates and Maseh. Maseh is a review of the 42 travels, right as they're on the precipice of coming into the Holy Land. Moshe goes over and reviews. These are all the travels that we did together. And the 42 travels that the Jewish people took from Egypt to Yarden Yerichai on the edge of the Jordan River opposite Jericho correlate to, the Baal Shem Tov teaches, the 42 journeys of the Jewish people throughout all of history. And each individual has 42 journeys in their own personal life.
Oh.
And so we could learn from the journeys that the Jewish people took from Egypt until they got to Yarden Yerichai about the different stages and steps of our own life. Because we're always moving, we're always getting closer to the promised land. So whereas the entry in the first time was sort of the end of that chapter, or that epic of the story, in a broader spectrum, the coming of Mashiach and the full entry into the land that will be heralded in with universal peace and harmony is the final stage. And sort of in a zoomed out fashion, all 42 journeys were kind of like the first step, just breaking out of Egypt. So let's learn this Rashi together, because he brings a very fascinating mashal from the Medrash that I'd like to go through with you all. Eile masei b'nei Yisrael asher yatsu me'eretz Mitzrayim l'sivoisam biyad Moshe va'Aharon. These are the journeys of the Jewish people who left the land of Egypt in their tzivoisam, their groups, their legions, under the charge of Moshe and Aharon. So this is Rashi. Eile masei. These are the journeys. Lama nichtavu amasais halalu. Why were these journeys recorded? Lahaidiya chasadav shal makim, to teach and to make known the kindness of Hashem. Sha'af al pisha gazar aleim letaltalam l'haniyam bamidbar loy tzayim shayu na'im umetotalim mima'asa lamasa kol arbaim shana. Even though Hashem decreed that they would have to wander in the desert, you shouldn't say that they were moving and wandering from station to station for all 40 years and they had no rest. Because over the 40 years, there were only 42 stations or 42 travelings. Say, Umehem, Yudalid Shekulam Hoyu B'Shana Rishon, and 14 of them were all in the first year. Kaidem Gezeira, even before the decree. Mishanasu Meramseis Ajaboyu Lirisma, Shemisham Nishtalchu Me Raglim. Shenamar Ve'achar Nasu Me Chatzeirais. So from when they journeyed from Ramses until they arrived in Ritma, from where they sent the spies, like it says, the people journeyed from Chatzeirais. And then afterwards, Shlach L'cha Anashim, sent out men, sent spies. V'kan hu oimer vayisu mechatzeros v'yachnu berisma. Lamadatosh hayu b'midbar paran. V'oid hoitzi misham ches matzoi shayu la'acher misas arein. Mehara har ad arvais mayav bishnas harabayim. Plus, you got to subtract 8 travels after the death of Aharon, which were all in the 40th year. Nimsa shekol shmeino shleishim shana loinasu ala esrim masais. So it comes out that for the entire 38 years, the big bulk of their journey, they only went on 20 travels. Zem Yustoishal Rabbi Maisha. This is based on the commentary of Rabbi Maisha Hadarshan. Rabbi Tanchuma Darash by Rabbi Tanchuma explains Darasha Acheres, a different midrash, a different way to interpret this verse. Mashal Lamelech. He gives a parable of a king. Shahaya v'nai chayla v'hayli chayla makim rachayik l'rafusai. And the king takes his beloved son on a long journey in order to be able to heal him, taking him to the doctor. Kivan shayu chayzrin, since they're coming back, hischil aviv mayna kol masais. The father goes back and he recounts all of the journeys. Amar Lai, he tells his son, Kan Yishanu, Kan Hoikarnu, Kan Chashashtal Reishecha. He says, this is where we sat, this is where we had a cold, and this is where you had a headache. So what's the parable? The mashal is, now that we're about to go into Eretz Yisrael, Hashem is carrying us through and rewalking all of our steps to say, listen, there were times where it wasn't always smooth sailing. There were times where you had a cold. There were times where you had to sit down. There were times when you had a headache. But it was all for what? What was the purpose of the entire journey in the mashal?
To get there.
To get where? What were they traveling for? To heal the sun. The sun needed a refuah.
So they had to heal from being slaves.
So this mashal teaches us something very fundamental about the purpose of the entire journey, which was all in order to heal the Jewish people. And similarly, within our own 42 masa'is, our own 42 journeys, our neshama travels from a very lofty ceiling, a very lofty spiritual place, and comes down all the way into this world. And this world is filled with darkness and concealment and challenges. And we could think, why do we have to go through all of these struggles and all of these darkness-inducing places, all of these journeys? So Rashi is bringing down this mashal to give us a paradigm shift about what the purpose of our very soul's descent into the body and all these journeys of life are all about. And it's all the king taking his son in order to heal him. So the 42 journeys in the desert. Now, a desert is like a barren wasteland. It's a place where human beings don't really dwell, generally, right? Unless you're the Jewish people living in Israel, then you could just turn a desert into an oasis somehow. I don't know. But generally, a midbar, as it's referred to in the Torah, is a eretz asher loy adam sham. It's a place where no man can live. Now, when we say Adam, we are also making reference to Adam ha'elyon, the supernal man, which, in other words, means it's a midbar, spiritually speaking. It means a place where divine consciousness is concealed, where a human being can't dwell. So we're going through this midbar ho'amim, this desert of nations throughout all the times of exile. And where are we trying to get to? Yarden Yerechai. What's the allusion to in Yarden Yerichai, the Jordan River opposite Yerichai, Jericho? So we have a tradition that Mashiach will, like it says in Sanhedrin in the Talmud, page 93b, that Mashiach will be so spiritually sensitive that his judgment or his ability to rule Torah rulings will be based on smell, which is reach. Like he'll have this spirit of being able to smell things out. And so the idea of Yarden Yerichai, which just like the traveling for 42 journeys to get into the land of Eretz Yisrael throughout all of the journeys through exile, is to get to Yarden Yerichai, the revelation of Mashiach, who will be able to, like it says, judge with this level of reach, of spirit, of smell. Until at the very end of the journey, we have the prophecy from Zechariah Yud Gimel Beis, which is V'seruach hatuma aver mina aretz, where all of the spirit of impurity will be completely eradicated from the earth. So based on the verse in Micha of Kimet Seis Chamer Tisayim and Ananuflo, it's just like the day that Hashem took us out of Egypt, or the days, more accurately, Kimet, like the days that he took us out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. So the sages explain that just like when we left Egypt, there'll be a simile between the way the Exodus went and the way that our future redemption will take place. And what was the first stage of our exodus from Egypt? Was the splitting of the sea, when all of the Egyptians got drowned away. Similarly, when Mashiach comes, it says, V'esruach hatuma aver min haaretz, that there'll be a similar type of eradication of all of the forces of negativity.
Okay, yeah.
So in the Medrash that Rashi brought down, he gave 3 examples. He said that here we rested, here we had a cold, and here you had a headache. And so we could say that the Medrash alludes to the first 3 journeys that the Jewish people took before the splitting of the sea. Oops, 1 second. Let me let Jasmine in. Welcome, Jasmine. Because all of the journeys leading up to, let me see, all of the journeys leading up to the splitting of the sea were still when there was evil. There was still some negativity that was still present. You could. But then once the splitting of the sea took place, we already were like a different world. Like it says in regards to the splitting of the sea, Ad Yavor Amzu Kenisa. It says until you crossed over, and Rashi says until you cross over the Yarden River, which means the entire song by the sea was singing about the ultimate redemption. Or like we have in the very first words of Oz Yashar, Oz Yashir Moshe B'nai Yisrael. Then they will sing, which is a allusion to the future song that we will sing when there's Tchias HaMesim, when there will be a resurrection of the dead. This is, Rashi points out on that very verse, that from here we see that Tchias HaMesim, that the resurrection of the dead is from the Torah, because it says Az Yashir, then they will sing. And where is that future singing? It's still yet to come. So, to get into more details about how these journeys work, the Masois, was Yidden darfen durchgehen in Midbar Ha'amim, is durch dem, was die Neshama kommt darab von Igra Rama in an art von Helen Vahester.
I'm
The
ruining.
journeys.
Okay.
You can sell these in Fortuna for a lot of money.
Whoops.
Yeah.
With text?
Where do we do this? My mute.
Mom.
How do you do? One second.
I get things for other people.
Hi,
I
Jasmine.
never-
You're in.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing?
It's all I see is a black screen.
Oh. Are you on your phone?
Yeah.
You gotta swipe over one screen and then you could see us. Now you could turn on your video. Oh, there you
Now
are.
I see many black screens.
Oh, it's probably a slow connection.
Oh,
But I can hear you.
Okay, very good.
Yay, I miss you guys.
Yay. Oops. This-
Hey, I have a question. Or maybe
Yeah.
it's not the right time. Am I interrupting?
What's up?
I was wondering is there like a program with you guys where like I could work and make some money? I found this car that's very cheap and I want to get it.
Sure, just contact us after the class.
Okay.
Okay. Some reason,
David said only if the car is red.
yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, let me see here. Where were we? So the neshama starts from a very high and lofty place, and then it ends up coming to a very low place, a place where godliness is concealed in this material world. Now, what's the purpose of this descent? Is not only to benefit the desert of nations that we refine the world by going through the world, that it brings a refinement for us and for the world around us, but ultimately these journeys are really a part of a much higher ascent. And not only that, but the journeys themselves are not just leading to an ascent, but a ascent in and of themselves. It's just that during the actual journey, during the actual time, it doesn't feel like a ascent. It feels like a descent. It feels like we're going down into the dark depths of Galus. But the ultimate purpose, and when we come out of that darkness, is really a much loftier and higher ascent than would ever be possible without it. So there's an expression by the Rebbe Rayatz that the that the very aspect of the tzimtzum, the contraction of divine light that brought about creation and the whole idea of exile is hepech ratzon elyon. It goes against the divine will. Now, this doesn't mean that it wasn't willfully created by God, but rather God willfully and decidedly and purposefully put the tzimtzum in place with the intent of us establishing a dwelling place for Hashem in this lowly world, which wouldn't be possible without the tzimtzum. But nevertheless, the actual concealment of godliness is considered hepech ratzon elyon. It's undesirable. So similarly, all of the journeys, even the ones that were plagued with sickness and darkness and hardship, were all for the sake of a higher elevation that wouldn't have been possible without it. But when does this all apply would seemingly be only if we
I made 27 today.
It's only if we are if we're following in Hashem's ways and we're we go through these different times, but we're not transgressing God's will. But what happens when a person does an Aveda, like we have throughout the I tried to mute her, but I couldn't, so that's why I put her in the waiting room. What happens if, like we have throughout the 42 journeys, it weren't all smooth sailing? What happened? Sometimes we complained. Sometimes things weren't going right. So we might think also that when it comes to the 42 journeys of our life, we might go through exile and hardship and difficulties. But as long as we're righteous, as long as we're doing what is expected of us, those hardships end up getting revealed as something very holy and very lofty. But what happens when we mess up? And then you can't really blame that on God. So we have free choice, right? We put ourselves in these types of interesting situations. Then you might think that then it's the same principle doesn't apply. But we do have a promise, like it says in Isaiah, Yeshaya Yud Beis Aleph, that when Mashiach comes, we're going to say, Oid chahavaya ki anaftabi. I thank you, God, because you vented anger upon me. Which means even the anaftabi, the vented anger upon me, will retroactively be revealed as part of the divine love and kindness and part of our ascent process. So as we go through the 42 journeys in the Torah and we get this review, we see they weren't all chesed and aliyah. They weren't all kindness and ascent. Some of them were filled with disputes or hardships. But the key, like we have in Rashi's mashal, is that wherever they're going, it's the king, the king is walking them. The king is taking them by the hand. And as we mentioned, why? It's l'rafoisai, to heal him. And so it's clear that the yerida, the descent itself, is bipnimius, like deep down, inwardly and truthfully from its like fundamental point of view, is an expression of divine kindness. And so in Rashi's parable, he brings these three examples that can be connected to the three travels before the splitting of the sea as the king is leading him. And then after the splitting of the sea, that's where they really kind of went down into the desert. That was when the real challenges and sort of us walking on our own, so to speak, began. But nevertheless, even the expression of "Noira lilal b'nei adam," that man is destined to sin, and there is this type of implantation into our minds and into our psyche that just causes us sometimes to do a transgression. Chashashta es reishecha, it says your head hurt. All the other ones he said we got cold or we needed to rest. But then when it came to the headache, this confusion in the world that we sometimes get plagued with, where we're kind of paving our own circuitous path, lest we think that that is something outside of the divine master plan, it's included here in order to teach us something very profound. That even when we slip up, although we could get kind of we could kind of get a little bit of a brain teaser of like how you can have both free choice and the idea that sometimes there are circumstances beyond your control, and this was part of the divine master plan. There are answers to that, but even from this idea that wherever we happen to be, whatever moment it is, and whatever place we're in, it's all by divine providence in order to lead us to a much higher path than would otherwise be possible. So you ever hear the expression off the derech? So it's kind of like yeshiva lingo for somebody who kind of goes off the what's called the derech havaya, the divine highway of holy and spiritual living. But in truth, it's not really off all paths. It's their own path that ultimately is for the sake of leading to a higher plateau that would otherwise be inaccessible. So it's not like this off the derech or off the path means you're gone and you have it's no you're not on the path anymore, but now you're taking a circuitous route. You know how they have sometimes those HOV lanes that cut across and then fly over and then somehow get you a dozen exits ahead when everybody else is kind of just following along. Similarly, through our own choices, and we have to take ownership and responsibility for our choices, because even when God sort of puts these ideas and inclinations into our heads or hearts, we have still the ability to exercise our own free will and overcome it. Nevertheless, when we do find ourselves on these circuitous paths, we realize they're actually unique avenues to get us to a higher place that would otherwise be inaccessible. And so even the phases of descent that appear to be coming as a result of our own free choice were ultimately decided by divine intent from the onset. So Hashem knows what we're going to choose, but doesn't take away from our ability to choose. And not only does God know what we're going to choose, but the big picture is something that's the divine grand master plan. Even things that go from sort of the immediate perspective against the divine will are part of the bigger divine picture. And so even the later descents that came because of the result of our own choices were in truth the result of the Melech Elichai, the king leading them by the hand and guiding them every step of the way. And all there in order to heal us. And the ultimate healing is one where, like it says, the Zidanias Nasalai Kizuchuyas, where the sin is uprooted from its very beginning and transformed into merits. Neker Avainai Mitchilasai. Because what was the techila? What was the original intent of that sickness or dire circumstance? Was in order to return, to get to a higher place. So there was a the Maggid of Mezrich, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, who heard this teaching from his rabbi, was a great rabbi and sage, and he was sitting around the table with all of his students, who each one went on to become a rebbe in his own right and formed one of the sects of the Hasidic movement. And he went around the table and he pointed to each one of them and told them, remember when this or that happened to you? And then would connect it to one of the 42 journeys in the desert. That was your personal Ramses. And he would go around the table and brought examples. He didn't tell each one what all 42 examples in their life is, but he went around and he gave examples. You know, when this happened to you, that was this episode. So I don't hold myself to be on that type of level where I can tell each and every one of you what a particular circumstance in your life is connected to particular circumstances, but there are enough examples within those 42, both the good and the bad, the pretty and the ugly, that we can find almost every at least significant episode in our lives and identify with and associate with these journeys. Right now, we're in a special time period. It's the 3 weeks of mourning over the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Now, a lot of people look at the Kotel and they see that as the holies of holies. They run up, they kiss it, they love it. For me, it had a kind of mixed sweet and sour. Because I know the Western Wall, although it's perhaps the holiest spot we could go to at this moment, it's not the holiest place in Judaism. Our holiest place is the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holies of holies in the Holy Temple. That on the surface lays in ruins. The Western Wall is like the outside retaining wall, holding up the whole Temple Mount. And right now, we had last week the fast of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, where we commemorate the breaching of the walls of Jerusalem. And it concludes with the 3 weeks on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av, the date where both the holy temples were destroyed. The Beis Hamikdash Rishon and the Beis Hamikdash Sheni. So, going through this time period and really feeling and sensing the magnitude of what's going on in these 3 weeks, and not just, going through the motions again and again every single year, but really sensing that on the one hand, all of the journeys are for the sake of an ascension and for the sake of a positive outcome. But in the current situation, there are ups and downs. There are times of divine revelation and there are times of divine concealment. And during these 3 weeks, we're meant to really internalize and identify with the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. That this is something that deeply impacts us, that deeply makes a difference in our lives. Because on the one hand, we're so happy to go to the Beis Hamikdash. I mean, or so happy to be able to have the Kotel, that it's been liberated, and for many years the Jewish people couldn't even go there. But on the other hand, we're yearning for something more. We're yearning for the complete rebuilding of the Holy Temple. And so at the same time that it was a very special experience to go to the Kotel for my first time, it was also a time that I tore Kriya, that you mourn the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Just like when you hear a close relative passes away, you rip your shirt. When I came and I saw the Beis Hamikdash in ruins for the first time, it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting to see the third Beis Hamikdash rebuilt.
No.
That's really what I was expecting, and that's what I'm still expecting, and that's what I'm expecting that we'll see very soon. So even these 3 weeks, which in the context that they exist right now are a descent, are ultimately for the sake of a higher ascent. When Rabbi Akiva came and saw the Beis Hamikdash in ruins, he laughed. The other 2 rabbis that were with him, they cried. So they asked Rabbi Akiva, why are you laughing? So, like a good Jew, he answers with a question, why are you crying? And they say the holies of holies, where the Kohen Gadol can only go once a year, is now overridden with foxen. Should we not cry? And he said, until now, I didn't know if we should take the prophecy literally or not. Now that I see the first half was fulfilled literally, I know that the second half will also be fulfilled literally. That it's not some allegory or some parable or some metaphysical third building of the Beis Hamikdash, but it means literally that the plowing of Jerusalem is for the sake of the planting and the new growth that happens from that process. And so, although they use the expression raised to the ground, they use chodesh, the term of plowing, plowed to the ground. But what's the purpose of plowing? The only reason why you rip up your nice backyard, so beautiful, and you plow the whole thing, is because you want to turn it into new growth. So you could plant there, and you could have a whole new growth out of it. Similarly, we should contextualize even the down moments of our personal life or our Jewish experience as a peoplehood. In the moment, even as they feel like descents, knowing that they are for the sake of an ascent, and that inwardly and deep down they really are a part of that ascent process. So they're an ascent in and of themselves. It enables us to go forth with a certain type of joy. Because you know how the Yetzer Hara gets us? The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, can never come to you and tell you to do a heinous sin. Because you'll tell him, fly a kite. I'm a Yid. I'm a Jew. I don't act that way.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what the Yetzer Hara does? It tries to get you depressed. What's wrong? Sadness is not a sin. As a matter of fact, maybe being a little bit sad that the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, you could write off as something holy, as something coming from a pure place. The thing is, the Yetzer Hara knows his craft really well. And as long as he could get you a little bit depressed, a little bit sad, a little bit off your joyous alacrity, your urgent optimism, your positive, you're going to be able to change the world and make this world into that takes a certain type of joyous, urgent optimism. As soon as the Yetzer Hara can throw us off our game, then all those things that you wouldn't ever consider doing all of a sudden become therapy. They become like, as if they're kosher, as if they're okay and good. So it's very important that we stay with our natural state. What does it take for a person to be happy? Happiness is not something that you need certain parameters, certain circumstances in order to be happy. The English word happy is connected to HAP, happenstance. Like I happen to have the right set of circumstances and then I could be happy. But the Hebrew word for joy, simcha, has the same exact letters as the word machshava, thought process. Because inwardly and intrinsically, we're always happy. It takes some perversion, some aberration of the norm in order for us to not be happy. And so what happens is we go through these journeys, and just like the Jewish people in the 40 years in the desert, the 42 journeys that they took, they weren't always clearly going up higher and closer to Eretz Yisrael. Took circuitous routes, but it was all to get to Eretz Yisrael. In hindsight, they couldn't get to Yarden, Yericho any other way. This was the journey that they needed to take, that we needed to take as the Jewish people in order to get to Yarden, Yericho, that first entry into the land. And similarly, all of the journeys that we take individually in our own lives and our own soul's story, and collectively as the Jewish people, including the horrific attacks and everything that's going on in Eretz Yisrael, and we're davening for our brothers and sisters there every day, we can't let that throw us off our game and make us feel like we are in such uncharted territory that God is not walking us by the hand anymore. Oh, the king is taking the son on the journey every step of the way to get healed. And although we don't know the reason why the things that appear bad to us in the current state, while we're on that journey itself, at that moment, we also have faith that that prophecy will be fulfilled. That there will be a day where we say, thank you, God, for venting your anger at me. When even the sense of the journey are not just for the sake of a ascent that happens afterwards, but we're a part of the divine love and kindness all along. And so this closes the entire book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers that counts and cherishes each and every individual, that each and every one of us has our story and our chapter to write in this journey of the Jewish people. And by recognizing your authorship over the next chapter, we could write a new song and a new story where we're coming into Eretz Yisrael all together amidst universal kindness and peace, where all evil and negativity is completely eradicated, and the whole world will experience a new era of kindness and divine revelation and goodness. And may this happen in a way where we can sense that panemius, that inwardness of all of the journeys speedily in our days.
Amen, amen.
Baruch Hashem.
I can see the Israelites going behind that sliver of blue Dead Sea there behind you.
Yeah, right.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite amazing seeing Masada and then knowing that there was just like a small group of Jews trying to maintain some semblance of autonomy and independence up there. They had their base medrash, they had their shul, where they found lots of scriptures, lots of old manuscripts from Torahs, and yet the Romans were not okay with maintaining control over 99.9% of the land and allowing the Jews to just have a little bit of Masada of their own little independence. But they wanted to invest time, money, energy in building this whole earth ramp up to Masada to quash even just a little semblance of independence that the Jewish people had on Masada. And that was kind of like the last stronghold of independence of the Jewish people for thousands of years.
Wow.
But lest we confuse ourselves and think that as long as we capitulate enough, and we give away enough land, and we appease the enemies enough, then they'll let us have our little sliver in Tel Aviv where they won't bother us. We give away all the rest. So like from Masada, we see even if you have just one plateau on top of a mountain where it's quite a schlep to bring water, still. But on the other hand, the context of the exile and hardships itself is all the destruction is for the sake of the rebuilding. Hashem destroyed his own temple. He put his own hands on his own house in order that we should have the third Beis HaMikdash, which is an eternal home and much greater and more powerful than the first two.
The final forever chapter.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Let's go. Grab Nick. Let's go.
Only if the new Beit HaMikdash has underfloor heating.
I'm going there. I want to be there now.
Still, in Jerusalem, it's pretty cold, and the floor is cold. But yeah,
Uh-oh.
Jerusalem is up probably 700 feet. I don't know how much, 700, maybe 1,000 feet some places above the sea level. So it's much milder, much nicer weather. And Masada is very low. So that picture is it's a negative height, right?
Right. It's somehow below ocean level, which is remarkable that it doesn't get flooded, right? Because if there was one channel that opened up between the ocean and the Dead Sea, the whole thing would overflow. You wouldn't be able to close that channel.
They tried that in Central Valley, you know.
Yeah, because it creates a big issue because you can't really build a dam once you open it up.
Yep.
Because it'll divert. It'll just keep going. You can't hold it back.
But did you end up going to Ein Gedi or not?
We drove through Ein Gedi. We tried to stop, but they closed the gates at 4 o'clock. And we didn't know. And we got there just after closing, and they wouldn't let us in. Plus, we went to the wrong place a couple of times. We're trying to find King David Falls, and we went to one parking lot, and it was like empty. And then we went up to another hill, and there was a gate. And then finally, we found the right spot, but then the gates were already closed.
Yeah. And Gedi is this desert oasis, really interesting.
Right. It's amazing.
You've been there, right?
Yeah.
And floating in the Dead Sea was a pretty awkward experience. You think because you're floating that you'd be able to sit up, but then it kind of you'll fall over like trying to keep maybe an odd shaped floaty a certain way.
Did you read the newspaper like they have in a picture? Did you read the newspaper while floating?
No, I sat in the Dead Sea and I just went like
Sitting in the lazy boy chair, right? Like,
That's the Jews in Florida. They do that on their little lounges in the pool.
Yes, yeah.
But even early in the morning, it was already too hot, and the water is so hot. It's just not even comfortable.
Yeah.
But the
But you feel like
Kinneret,
such a lightness after after you leave the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
Like after a few hours, it's like such a lightness in the body. It's like amazing.
Yeah, I remember it. I had bruises from some kind of exercise or something, and then like one dip in the Dead Sea, got out. Maybe a few hours later, everything gone.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just like in the Torah with that captain of guard of another nation that came to one of our, I think it was Tamika, who healed him. He told him what to do and he didn't want to do it. He said, go take a dip in the water, seven dips. And he didn't want to go. It was too easy. So he finally did it. He was talked into it and it worked. That was the water, same water you dipped in.
so the nice water was by the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, that one was?
It's teeming with life. The water's nice and cool, but then you have these hot currents from the hot springs of Tiberia that are like there was a stream coming into the Kinneret right where we went in, and you could feel the water coming down the rocks and into the water, and it's mamish hot. It's hot water.
Nice.
And then when I first got in, I felt something tickling my feet. I thought there was like some I got scared that there was some sort of big fish or something. But when I got to my brother brought these snorkeling goggles, and you look down, there's these little teeny tiny fish that are just nibbling away at whatever garbage grows on your toes. And he said they actually collect these fish and they bring them to like malls in America, and you pay top dollar to have these fish clean your feet.
Yeah. They have it in Chinese malls. Yeah, in Chinese.
Okay, there's Chinese malls. or whatever.
places.
So it was a very awkward feeling, but then it just kind of went with it, and it was weird.
I heard it got better since the time they started pumping water into it from desalination plant. They always had a problem with it going too low, to being too much water being taken out, and now it's all like nice, filled up.
Well, we first went to a spot that that had separate swimming, but that entrance was closed, and they said they're not opening it until 9 o'clock, and we were there like 8 o'clock in the morning. And so we just kept driving north a little bit, and we just found this open entrance where you don't have to pay to go in or anything, just a staircase going into the water. And there was nobody else there. It was completely empty. So we just jumped in.
Cool.
Great.
And that was right across from where Rabbi Meir Balanes is buried. I posted a picture davening by Rabbi Meir Balanes's burial place.
Wildness. Oh.
Rabbi Meir Balanes lived during the times of Rabbi Akiva, and he was a great miracle worker. He was married to the famous Bruria, who's probably the most often mentioned name of a female in Talmud, because she was very bright and very quick-witted. There's some very interesting stories and episodes with Rabbi Meir and Bruria. He was able to save Bruria's sister when she got kidnapped and taken to one of the houses that the Romans were known for.
Did you have a chance to go to the Golan Heights, or?
No, we didn't go. I didn't go that far north. I went as north as Sfat and Meron.
Was Meron open, or?
Yeah, it was completely open. It was very nice. I mean, there were a lot of people there. We had a few. There were minyanim going on, people davening, but it was also empty enough that you could get right up to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's resting place, and I was able to spend a few minutes there and say some Tehillim and learn some Zohar. that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai recorded right there at his resting place. It was very powerful.
I haven't been, but I heard it's always packed.
So it wasn't so packed. There was room. There were benches open. There were people, room to move around. There were definitely people there, but I was, I don't know what it's normally like because it was my first time there, but didn't seem very packed.
Yeah, there's an army base on top, Air Force base on top, and they shoot rockets at it right now. So they were closing the praying place because of proximity to everything.
Right. And they also didn't want like large crowds of people to be there.
And they put
It's not a
all the prayers in the army. Who's going to pray? There's nobody to pray anymore. God's taking the Torah out of Israel so he can get rid of Israel and bring us back to start it up with the diaspora. We are Israel, kids. There's something going on. I think if you think about it all over, what's going to happen to Israel that we are the startup? Take it back a step.
Israel's not going anywhere. Israel is the land that Hashem is looking over, watching over from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
What about the people?
And the people are not going anywhere either.
Baruch
They're gonna
Hashem.
go from ascent to ascent, from one aliyah to the next aliyah. So
All right.
going to Eretz Yisrael is nicknamed making aliyah, but we can make aliyah. We can make aliyah after aliyah, no matter where we are. When we take upon ourselves an extra mitzvah, we're making aliyah. When we vanquish our evil inclination, we're making aliyah. We make enough aliyah, we elevate the whole world, and we return to Eretz Yisrael amidst full peace and harmony.
Let's do it. Bring it on.
All right. Laila Tov, everyone. Hey, Sammy. Nice to see you.
Take care, Nick. Maria, guys. Be well. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Good to
Thank
see you back.
Good to see you. Welcome
Thanks for
back.
coming on, Amanda. Good to see you, Nick and Maria.